So it's awesome to be here. Well, remotely, long distance, but I feel a little bit present over there in the east from my side, of course. I am in Rotterdam, in the Netherlands, and that's my hometown. This is my little office where I have been doing many talks for the last 1.5 years. But thank God I am traveling again. I just arrived from Düsseldorf yesterday for a workshop. So fingers crossed, things are going back to a little bit more of normal. But I'm also happy to do more webinars as I do now. And I would like to offer you some of my thoughts on Agile, what it means to me, and how we have, I think, how we have gotten a few things maybe wrong or forgotten about things that we should improve. We have been working on Agile for 20 years now. That's a long time. And there's a lot of stuff happening in the Agile community. Of course, first, I would like to bring a little bit of suggestions on customer experience to you, and then I'm going to talk about the job to be done, and then employee experience, and we will end with some thoughts on organizational structure. But let's begin with this picture. This is a big tag cloud of stuff that we talk about in the Agile community. There are a lot of sub-communities such as Scrum and Kanban and SAFe and Beyond Budgeting, Management 3.0, and many more. And they all have their own values and principles and topics, etc. And I looked at them, at those values and principles, and I made it a big tag cloud. And you can see that one of the biggest words, or maybe the biggest word, is customer focus. That's very, very important to focus on what the customer wants, what the customer needs, what the value is that we are supposed to offer to customers. And to be honest, I think we have not done a good job there, not good enough. Because when I talk with people, then most often the interpretation seems to be, let's ask what the customer wants and deliver faster. That's it. Just listen to what the customers want and then give it to them faster. And I think that is not entirely the right approach. Also, I see a lot of topics emerging at Agile conferences, etc., about transformation and leadership and coaching and methods and frameworks. And then maybe there is one session about customer value. Well, that is the biggest word in the tag cloud. So I think we have to talk a little bit more about that. I'm not sure if you're able to hear the sound. I have 2 or 3 videos. If not, no problem, then I will explain. But let's try and see if you can hear the sound of this little video.
Very important news today. A new Easter egg has been found, and Tesla owners are calling it the butthole Easter egg. By telling the car to open its butthole, the charge port will open. By telling the car to close its butthole, the charge port will close.
All right, so hope that came across. That's the butthole Easter egg of the Tesla. The Tesla owners love this. They were ecstatic when they found this Easter egg in their car. Many people uploaded videos showing how they opened the rear charge port of their Tesla by saying, hey, Tesla, open butthole. This is, of course, a joke of the software developers at Tesla, but it's also brilliant marketing, if you ask me, because this is free advertisement for Tesla. And also from a human perspective, car owners like seeing their car as a living thing, as something that they take care of. I also gave my car a name. My car is called Beast. It's a black car. I don't have a Tesla, but I gave it a name. That's a very human thing to do. And with these features, we increase our appreciation for our cars. So I think that is a very, very smart thing to do. It increases the Tesla experience, basically. And that is key for me. I think we should learn more from Tesla nowadays than from Toyota. Toyota has been the big example in the Agile community for 20 years now. And right now, Um, Tesla is worth more. The market cap of Tesla is higher than that of Toyota, even though Toyota produces more cars, but nobody talks about the Toyota experience. People talk about the Tesla experience. That's something completely different. So I think we need to understand that better. What does it mean to offer customers and users an experience? I actually think that we should stop thinking in terms of bytes and atoms that we offer our customers. Maybe we create happiness molecules in their heads, right? Maybe we should think about dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin. Those are the happiness molecules. That is what we are responsible for as product creators. Make those customers happy. And that means we have been talking about products for a long time in the Agile community. It is a good thing that we switch from project to product, but maybe we should now start switching from product to experience, because the experience is bigger than just the product. How about an experience backlog? How about the experience owner? Just to give you a couple of examples. Here is one other example of my personal favorites. I use both Netflix and Amazon Prime, and the first time I used Amazon Prime for watching a series, in this case The Expanse, I was blown away that I could look at all the individual actors. I could just stop every scene and see who was playing which role, and then click on or tap on that actor to see which other movies or series they played in, because it's connected with Internet Movies database. And that was a wow moment. Like, whoa, this is cool. Someone thought about this at Amazon Prime. I'm not sure if any customer asked for this, but it was a nice surprise. It's a wow moment for me. So this is, again, another example of an experience that we offer. Now, in other communities, such as design thinking and service design, they know a lot about experience of customers. One favorite practice is journey maps, where you describe the typical journey that a customer has with your product, and then you find the wow moment and the what the moments. And of course, you try to create wow moments for your customers. So customer experience is, I think, a bit underrated in the Agile community. I think we need to do better. Focus more on what is the experience that we're trying to offer. And nobody asked for an Easter egg in their Tesla car, but it has increased the experience, the appreciation of Tesla owners. It was a really nice surprise. So that is a different way of thinking about your backlog and about what it means to make products. Now let's move on to the second part, dig a little bit deeper into the job that we are trying to solve for our customers. It begins with motivation. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, very popular and old model. And it is a bit criticized because some of the experts say there is not really a hierarchy of human needs, but the picture is nice and it has some really good ideas behind it. Then another model that appeared a few decades ago is called self-determination research. And that one consists of autonomy, competence, and relatedness by Decky and Ryan. And that's interesting because they basically turned all those motivators into three big buckets, right? Three main motivators. And this is based on science. There's real research behind it. And then there's a famous book by Daniel Pink. I'm sure you know this book, at least many of you do. It has been referred to many times in the Agile community. The interesting thing is, Daniel Pink used self-determination research in his book, but he changed things. He changed competence to autonomy. That's just a different word. And he changed relatedness to purpose. But that's something completely different. And I don't know why he did that, but just That's just the way it is. So he said autonomy, mastery, purpose. Those are the three motivators. And to be honest, in the Agile community, many people don't go further than just saying, hey, people's motivators are autonomy, mastery, purpose, because they read Daniel Pink's book. Okay, but it is a bit simplistic. There is a bit more if we dig deeper. Another model that I liked is by Stephen Rice. He wrote a book called Who Am I? And he lists 17 basic desires. He goes a bit further, splitting it up in more different motivators. And as some of you know, I have used that actually, including self-determination research, as the basis to create moving motivators. I ignored the ones that are not business related, such as food, etc. And I focused on the motivators that we can use in on teams, and I settled on 10. And that's been a very useful practice, game exercise for people around the world. But I went further. I recently did this again, and I basically made the successor to moving motivators. I went through all the research again, self-determination research, Daniel Pink's drive, Stephen Rice. I made a new mapping, tried to come up with the best words, and overall, if you overlay them all, you end up with 24 different drives, 24 different ways people are motivated. Now that's a lot. That's quite a bit, as you can imagine. So I thought, how can I visualize that better? How can I make this more useful? And I know two ways in which we can distinguish motivation. One is, and you see that at the bottom of the diagram, is intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. The definition of that is, with intrinsic motivation, we are motivated by the activity itself. Like, I love sleeping. I like the activity. So that's an intrinsic motivator. I also like food, eating. That's a nice activity. So that's also very extrinsic. On the other side of the scale, you find the extrinsic ones, like when someone has hurt you or did something bad, you want justice. You want to take revenge, basically. And that is an extrinsic motivator. Then it is about the outcome. And you do anything you can to try and get even. At least that's how it works for many people. Another one is recognition. Trying to be a famous keynote speaker or a famous writer, it is a lot of work, and not all of it is fun. A lot of it is fun, but not everything. But then the motivator is being recognized. That's an outcome for some people. So that's intrinsic versus extrinsic. Then there's another one that is vertical. The vertical difference is need versus desire. And there is a research behind that says that the things that demotivate us are not the same as the things that motivate us. For example, I feel demotivated when I'm not healthy, or I feel demotivated when I don't feel safe. But health and safety are not motivators for me. I just assume that I am healthy and that I'm safe. It's only that I feel bad when I lost my health and my safety. And with the desires, it's the other way around. I desire beauty. That's why I like seeing movies, for example, or I like curiosity. That's something that I am after. That's a desire. So that's need versus desire. The things that demotivate us are not the same as the ones that motivate us. Now, this is just my picture. It's important to emphasize that the words are culturally dependent. In different cultures, people have different words, different meanings. This is probably a very Western way of looking at things, and also the way I ordered them. That's my personal order. Maybe for you, food is more of a need than a desire. That's perfectly fine. But I think this is a nice starting point. This is a nice starting point for exercises and for trying to understand customers better. Instead of just 3 motivators, we now have a more detailed palette of 24. That gives us something to talk about, right? Is our customer, do they need safety, or is it that they are after security? Those are different things, safety and security. You see, there's a more subtle conversation that we can have with a model like this. So all of that leads up to the job to be done. That's what I'm going to talk about now. When we try to help customers getting something done, we basically try to make them happy. And I wrote a book, Managing for Happiness. Maybe some of you have read it. And to write that book, I did a lot of reading, of course, and I found out that basically the clue to making people happy is closing the gap between their current situation and what they expect, their expectation. Now, you can do that in 2 ways. You can lower people's expectations so that it's closer to their actual situation. That is the Buddhist approach. That is saying, well, this is the way things are. Let's just be happy with our current situation, because why bother always trying to pursue the newest thing? That's the Buddhist approach, and also it is the key to a happy marriage. Reduce your expectations. The other way, and that is the more popular, is to increase people's situation. And that is what drives the economy. That is what drives continuous innovation and product development, because people always want something new to make them happier. And that works for a while until they need the next thing to be happy. I was happy when I saw the June movie last week. It was awesome. But hey, that was last week. This weekend, I want to see another one to be happy again. We are never eternally satisfied with this approach. Of course, we always want the next thing, and that is what makes us buy products and services. Now, here's a famous person, Clayton Christensen. He said, basically, when we buy a product, we hire it to help us get a job done. This is called the jobs to be done theory, basically. I will give you an example. I often talk about coffee because I like coffee. And when I travel around the world, fortunately, I am traveling again, then I often look on Google Maps, what is the best coffee place? Where is the coffee with the highest rating? And I want to try that out. But actually, very often you will see that I sit at Starbucks. And that is not the best coffee. It is acceptable, but there are other places with better coffee in the city. Why am I not there? Well, one reason could be that I cannot sit at the other places, or they don't want me to open my computer. This has happened more than once, that I want to go somewhere and do some work for an hour, and they don't want me to. So, no, you cannot work here. You can just drink coffee. But I'm a traveler. I need a place to answer my emails and get some work done while I enjoy my coffee. And this is exactly what Starbucks is made for. They call that the third place, the place between your office and home, where you sit down, relax, get some work done, and enjoy your coffee. So Starbucks understood the job to be done for me as a customer. So they have nice, comfortable chairs, and they offer coffee that is good enough. So the job to be done is not to just give me the best coffee. It is give me good enough coffee and a nice place where I can work for an hour or something. So that is something that we need to understand as product creators. What is the job that someone is trying to get done here? There's a famous example of why do people buy a drill? Well, to make a hole in their wall. But then you can ask why a couple of times. Why do people want a hole in their wall? Well, to secure a hook. Why do people want a hook? Because they want to hang a painting. Okay, why do they want to hang a painting? Well, they want to decorate their home, express their lifestyle. Now we're getting somewhere. That is the real job to be done. People want to decorate their house, to make it a personal environment that they live in. They want to hang up their paintings and their photos. Nobody wants a hole in their wall. Why would you want a hole in the wall? That's not really the job to be done. Actually, I bought photos online from vacation photos that I had printed, and they use strips. I can just use strips to put them on the wall, and I can take them off again and put them somewhere else. That's a different kind of product for exactly the same job to be done. Now, the interesting thing about job to be done is that it is stable over time. For example, people have always wanted to visit friends and family. For thousands of years, they wanted to visit friends and family. That's a job to be done. And the products that are being offered, they change all the time. They had horses and carriages, and then came cars, and we have bicycles if they're nearby. And nowadays we have Uber and e-scooters, and the number of options just keeps increasing. But the job is the same. The job is still people want to meet their friends and family, and they want a convenient way to get there, and they don't want to get lost. So the products keep changing over time, but jobs are very stable. They rarely change, basically. This is Kathy Shera. She's one of the most amazing product managers, very inspiring. And she said that it is the secret to creating great products is not to make awesome features, it is creating awesome users. So try not to create a better camera, photo camera, for example. No, you try to make better photographers. That is what your product is supposed to do. That is the job to be done, to make someone feel awesome about being a photographer. And figuring out the job to be done, that is our work. As Steve Jobs said, it is not the customer's job to know what they want. That's our job to figure that out. And that requires conversation. It requires observing what people are doing. I offer a template now. There are jobs to be done, canvases already available. I offer my own canvas because, of course, I think mine is better. But I leave the judgment to you. I will give you a link at the end if you're interested. And then you can use that canvas to try and dig deeper into what is really the job that needs to be done for this particular customer. All right, let's move on. I have two more topics to go. Maybe some of you remember this, Pokemon. Oh yes. I was in New York City when the Pokemon craze happened, where people were walking around with their smartphones trying to chase monsters. And I was thinking, my God, the world has gone insane. Everyone walking around with their smartphones. But then I thought, a lot of people have changed their behavior in just a few weeks. And many times I hear in the Agile community, people resist change or people resist being changed by others. But within a few weeks, millions of people were playing a game. Isn't that interesting? So I don't think people resist change necessarily. They just resist things that are not fun. That's what they resist. People happily use smartphones. I don't know anyone who is resisting the use of smartphones. It's a really convenient, enjoyable product. I don't know anyone who doesn't like playing games, basically. I don't know anyone who resists streaming audio and video. Everyone I know uses Spotify, Netflix, Pandora, Amazon Prime, or whatever. So what the problem is that the way we bring change to people sucks. We are really bad at trying to convince people to change their behaviors. Normally, what we do is we make big frameworks with books and courses and certification, and then we say, from now on, thou shalt honor thy product owner and scrum master, or something like that. And that doesn't work. I read a book a number of years ago about running because I wanted to be a runner, and the book contained page after page after page of instructions of how I had to be a runner. And it was very, very demotivating. I put the book away. That's not how I wanted to be a runner, basically. So what needs to change is the way we bring change to people. And for that, I want to rely on gamification, because gamification is applying the successes that games have in a non-game context. So I'll give you some examples. This is called don't break the chain or extend the streak. I'm sure many of you know this through various smartphone apps, whether it is Duolingo or whatever, where you try to do something every day, and the longer your chain is, the better. So that's a gamification thing, basically. There is a great model called Octalysis by Yukai Chao, who is one of the gurus in the gamification world. And you can use that model to figure out what are the things that we can try. Very often, what people do is just points and leaderboards. That is sad, because giving people points for things that they do and then making a ranking of who has the most points, that works, but it is only one corner of the Octalysis model. You can do a lot more. I will give you examples. Mario said for retrospective sprint meetings, I spin a bottle to define who is next. Well, obviously, that is unpredictability. It's on the other side of the Octalysis model. We love things that are unpredictable. You find Easter eggs in the same corner. Oh, that's a nice surprise. We suddenly are surprised by something unpredictable. Has nothing to do with points or leaderboards or competition, but it is gamification. Another example, Nama said, in my project, we have sprints with themes, different card themes, for example, superheroes and holiday symbols, racing cars. What part of the model is that? Well, I think that is meaning. It is storytelling. Storytelling is part of gamification. Let's add some story of superheroes. It's whatever that we around what we're doing here that gives it a bit more meaning to our collaboration. Another one, the Spotify health check is also basically a gamified concept, gamified exercise, because it looks very colorful. It has these traffic lights. People can do that themselves with their team. So there's empowerment, but also accomplishment and meaning, all wrapped in one practice. I found one where teams earn badges for themselves. If we have done our retrospectives 5 times in a row, we get the Back to the Future badge. And when we have done the cumulative flow diagram for a number of times, we get the Only Way is Up badge. So they give themselves badges for stuff. That is accomplishment, of course, but also ownership, because teams then like to collect all the badges that they award themselves, and that is the collection set mechanism is ownership. That's on that left side of the model. And here, last example, you see here a Kanban board with a work in progress limit 40 at the very end. That means whenever we have 40 items in the last column, everything is stuck, and the product owner needs to buy cake for the team. That's a cool one. So the product owner has to resolve this bottleneck by buying cake for the entire team, because we got 40 items done. What part of the model is used here? Well, of course, accomplishment, because we celebrate that we got 40 things done, but also social influence. It is prodding the product owner saying, hey, isn't it time for cake? Let's celebrate together. That's fun, having a drink or something like that. So all of these are examples of how we can gamify things. And I think we should do more of that. We should learn how games make us happy as employees. So this is the customer experience, the employee experience as an alternative to the customer experience. Actually, I nowadays say there's very little difference between a product manager and a change manager. They're just trying to change different people. The product manager is trying to change the behaviors of customers. The change manager is trying to change the behaviors of employees. But all the tricks in the book, all the models, they're basically the same that we can use because customers and employees, they're all humans. So there's a huge overlap in responsibilities. Now, last part, last 14 minutes. This is one of the newest stuff that I've been working on. I have noticed another thing that we may not have gotten right in the Agile community. There's a lot of talk about stable teams, and that's good, but sometimes the stable teams become static teams. And I think static teams are not Agile. There is a reason for keeping teams flexible enough so that they change every now and then. For example, crises happen all the time. Facebook had a crisis this week, and I'm pretty sure that they did not have a new crisis team that had to go through a 6-week long forming, storming, norming, performing cycle until they were able to solve the problem. No, the crisis team has to operate right now and fix the problem fast. And we have that more and more often because the environment changes dynamically, and we often don't have time to go through that long period of forming, storming, norming, performing. We have to do that faster, basically. So I am inspired by Team Topology's book that I'm sure some of you have heard of before by Matthew Skelton and Manuel Pais, where they describe 4 different kinds of teams: value teams, complicated subsystem teams where something unique and difficult is wrapped, the platform teams that can offer services, architecture, and infrastructure to the stream-aligned teams, and the enabling teams, for example, agile coaches or something. I like that model of team topologies. Most teams are the yellow ones, the stream-aligned teams, Scrum teams, Kanban teams, but there are some exceptions. And what I find important that the changing such those teams, that has to be done more easily, because in many organizations this hurts. Well, actually, Martin Fowler, who was one of the signatories of the Agile Manifesto, has said, when it hurts, do it more often. It is one of the key principles in the Agile community. When software releases hurt, you have to do them more often so that they stop hurting, so that it becomes easier for you to do a release. I think it is exactly the same with forming a new team. When forming a new team hurts, you'll have to practice it. You have to become better at it instead of saying, let's keep the team static. That is not agile, actually. The agile approach would be dynamic reteaming. There's actually a book about it by Heidi Helfland. She describes how to do this. She describes what the benefits are of being able to change teams when necessary. It doesn't mean you do this all the time, of course not. But when it is necessary, you change teams, people form new teams, and there is no big performance penalty because you've practiced this. You become good at it. The various benefits to it, including less competition between teams, which can be bad, and better career opportunities for people because it's easier for them to work on other teams on a more flexible basis. Actually, in the Scrum community, they are already experimenting with this as well. There are blog posts about how to do Scrum with fluid teams. That's the same principle, basically. So I really recommend that you look into that. Type Scrum fluid teams, and you will see a Jan Willem Egeling and others experimenting with these concepts. And they say it works for them. It makes you even more agile than keeping your teams static. So my starting point is this. Team topologies, good stuff. Great book. Normally, most teams are yellow value streams, but some might be a platform team or enabling team or the red ones, the complicated subsystem teams. But I want to form these teams more easily, more in a more fluid way. We have our base, our group of people in our tribe, our unit, whatever, and they should be able to form those teams when necessary to solve a crisis or to quickly launch a new app within 2 weeks without having to do 6 weeks of storming, norming, performing. The next steps I made with the model is that I prefer that each of those flexible teams has what I call a captain. And by the way, I like the word crew for a team. That's just my preference, because the word crew signals that this is a temporary team. They are on a journey. They are on a journey until they're done, like the crew on an airline, on an airplane, or the crew on a ship. When they have delivered the customer to where the customer needs to be, the crew is done, and they can form a new crew for the same ship or the same plane. So I like that concept of crew. And then captain is, well, the person who has the lead. That can be anyone. They can do that on a rotational manner, or it could be assigned by management. I don't care. There's one thing that's important. There is no line management on the crew. Nobody is the manager of anyone else. Why? Because as soon as you have a manager on a crew, you will have a territory, and the manager will try to protect that territory. So no line management on a self-organizing team. But for the outside world, it is useful to have one point of contact. Like the airline will have contact with the captain remotely when a plane is in the air, and the captain will then distribute messages with the rest of the crew. That's the responsibility of a captain. Now, of course, you need a container. In Spotify model, they call that the tribe. I have exactly the same suggestion, only I call it the base, because I like the word base as your home. This is your home from where you do your assignments, your missions with your crew, but you always come back to your base. That's the starting point. And the base needs to train itself into trying to make the crews more fluid. It's the same as we've done with Scrum. Maybe some of you remember in the past 20 years ago, iterations were 4 weeks. And people said, wow, every 4 weeks, that's fast. Nowadays, we say that is vintage Scrum, basically. 4 weeks, that's slow. Many companies release multiple times per day. They say Tesla has sprints of half an hour. So we need to learn how to be faster in the fast changing environments. Now, this base has managers. I call them chiefs. They are the managers of the base. They have line management. Only they have line management. Same as in many organizations, I suppose. And this is what is different between my suggested model and Spotify model. I do recognize that UX designers want to talk with each other, the backend developers want to talk with each other, and maybe the product owners want to agree with each other on standardization, on how can we make it easier for people to move fluidly between multiple crews. You have to agree on things in a self-organized manner. In the Spotify model, that's what the chapters are for. I prefer to call them forums because a forum is there to talk with each other. You talk with each other with a forum. Someone needs to moderate the forum. I call those the chair of the forum. But again, that chair has no line responsibility. It's just the moderator of the forum. Have the UX designers agree with each other what it means to be a UX designer on various crews, so that it will be easier for them to switch when necessary. That makes you more flexible as an organization. And that is different, as I said, with a Spotify model, because in a Spotify model, the chapter leads are functional managers, they're line managers. And that is a bit of a problem, because that means you end up with a matrix organization. You end up with people on the same squad in Spotify model with different managers who do not work with each other. In my suggested model, that is not the case, because even with 2 people or 3 people on a crew have different managers, those managers are always together, working together on the base. They are one team. So any problem escalates one level up to one team, not different parts of the organization to people who do not collaborate. And then last 2 steps, of course, that you can make that a bigger container, you can make that a league. I suggest as something that wraps multiple bases, and there will be ways for people to coordinate stuff across multiple bases, like communities of practice. I call them a club, but you can call them whatever you want. That's just coordination on a voluntary basis. This could be emerged bottom up, basically. Now, I came up with this based on the insights of things that I saw. It's just my conversations with startups and scale-ups around Europe. I saw what the successful ones are doing. I thought, maybe I should just draw a picture of that. There's very little new here, actually. It's just, in my opinion, common sense. Yes, the words that I used are new. They're funny words, but the words are not very important. And I use colors because I like colors. So that's also not important. You can use different colors, you can use different words, but the description of the model is pretty much common sense, in my opinion. And interestingly enough, this was validated already within a few days. When I posted this on LinkedIn, Andreas Ullman said, this is exactly what we do at Ministry company in Hamburg. We have been doing this for years. It works wonderfully well. They just never had made a picture of it because they didn't know how to make a picture. And they use different words. They call them X-Men instead of chairs, and they call them the core team instead of the chiefs. Okay, that doesn't matter. But he said, now I will use your picture to explain to customers what we are doing at Ministry Group. And that is very helpful. So I'm pretty sure many people, many organizations in the world are already doing this, because they've already found out that Spotify model is pretty good, but they have a matrix organization problem. If you fix that matrix issue, you have a really nice flexible structure, and then you can do dynamic reteaming, fluid teams much more easily, because there are no territories of chapter leads anymore. So that's basically a small fix that I made to the Spotify model. And I will leave it up to you to see how this compares with your favorite framework, whether it is SAFe or LESS or Nexus or whatever. That is something we can discuss at a later point, I am sure. So that is it. I hope you found some of this interesting. I promise you a link, shiftup.org/join, if you want to download that model, that unfixed model, as I call it, or the jobs to be done template. A few dozen other PDFs are part of the package. Feel free to sign up, shiftup.org/join. And thank you so much for listening and inviting me and making me part of this event. Thank you.